Back to the starting lineup with Scott Purrier, Ned Reynolds, and Art Haynes on your home for the St. Louis Cardinals. 102.1 The One.
And we are back with the starting lineup. Keep in mind the number 417, area code obviously, 447-1021. That's the number to call with phone or text, one or the other. We have special guest, fire away.
We do. Yeah, he is the Missouri Valley Conference Swimming Coach of the Year. He just led the Missouri State men's swimming and diving team to a Missouri Valley Conference championship, first time since 2020. His women's squad finished third at the league event. We welcome in Dave Collins. Good morning, Mr. Collins.
Morning, Scott. Morning, Ned.
Yes, sir.
How are you?
I'm good, man. Just enjoying not being at the pool at 6 a.m. this morning. It's kind of nice this is sleeping in for me.
Yeah. What time do you get up to start your day? I know you and Reynolds have been on pretty similar schedules forever.
Yeah, we're not real smart with our sport. I don't know who started the early morning practice thing years and years ago, but yeah, I usually leave the house around 5:15 and get in because we usually hit the water at 6 a.m. most days.
And go till what?
Usually from 6 to 8 in the morning, and then we'll come back with another group or some of the same athletes back in the afternoon. Obviously some of them are lifting during those times, some are swimming, but there's a lot of activity throughout the day, both morning and afternoon.
You know, we had Chris Parker's on every Monday with us from the Ozone, and we were having a discussion about area high school swimming. And he said it's slipped a little bit in our area here recently and maybe statewide because kids now, it takes such a commitment for a swimmer with the early mornings and the repetitive laps and everything else that they have to do to get to a place where they can compete. Do you see that happening? Has it happened here lately, and especially with U.S. kids?
I mean, I think it's any sport to do at a high level takes a lot of commitment. So whether it's swimming, any sport, but I do think that the time and the commitment put forward and the money. I mean, it's expensive. I mean, if you want to get to the meets that elite kids go to, it's expensive now traveling, and I'm doing that with my own kids' youth sports. I mean, it's not cheap. So, I don't know if that has anything to do with it. We've got great high school coaches in the area. In fact, Steve Boyce, I know, is retiring this year, and he's been just a staple in the area. So we've got good coaches, and there's some good swimmers. It's just maybe the depth is not as good as it used to be.
Dave, I think a lot of the audience might be interested to know where in the world lifting falls into swimming. It doesn't usually correlate, but it's certainly a necessary ingredient. Tell us how it works. Yeah,
I mean, I would say in the last 20 years, strength training has become, and even probably the last five years even, it's huge. I mean, we're building athletes, and the stronger, faster, the higher they can jump, even though that's on land, does correlate to what they do in the pool. So, majority of our athletes are in the weight room 3 times a week. Sometimes the distance swimmers are just in there twice a week because they need a little bit extra time in the pool. But yeah, I mean, it's, I'm not that old, but when I was swimming, it was more, we just did some running and throwing med balls at each other and things like that. But we really weren't in the weight room, so to speak. But that's all changed now.
When you do the lifting, there's a protocol, of course, you follow, but what do you concentrate on with the athletes, both female and male?
Well, I concentrate on supporting our strength coaches because that's really that's not my cup of tea, to be honest. But we've got some great strength coaches, but it is, you do look at the movement patterns for the different events. The breaststrokers are going to do some different lifts than the freestylers, and distance athletes that are maybe preparing for a 15-minute race as opposed to sprinters preparing for a 19-second race. So it is all correlated and very scientific, and it's pretty cool.
Dave, I look at your roster, both men and women, and it seems like you've got a ton of U.S.-born swimmers, more so maybe than a lot of rosters that has seemed to shift more to the international flavor. Kind of describe your recruiting philosophy on that, and has that changed in recent years?
I mean, we always are just interested in the best swimmers that we can find that want to come be students at Missouri State, that want to work hard. We're kind of, even back to my time under Coach Steck, that junkyard dog mentality of, we don't have a fancy facility. We're not going to have as many pairs of shoes and hoodies that a lot of the teams we may compete against will have, but we've got a really good group. I think our team chemistry was probably one of the best this year that we've ever had. And so, yeah, I mean, we'll take them from anywhere. The transfer portal, a lot of people ask me how that impacts swimming. It has really been a benefit to us. In fact, this year's team, we wouldn't have been able to have the success we had without having a really good year recruiting the transfer portal last year. We had 5 transfers out of a team of 20. So that were all brand new this year. Some were cut off of rosters at SEC schools. Some were NAIA guys that were trying to move up. So, it's just a good mix, but we're a great place for transfer athletes that maybe didn't find the right fit on the front end.
Is NIL a big deal in swimming?
No, not at our level. I mean, at the very, very top, you've got some of the U.S. Olympians that are still in college that are swimming at different schools or getting some stuff, but you're not really seeing NIL. I mean, you are seeing cost of attendance. A lot of teams are bumping that up. So they're finding ways to get kids a little bit extra funding, but you're not competing for NIL money, no.
Dave, with the Olympics, Summer Olympics coming up in 2 years, do you have anybody who is at least capable of being in the trials?
We do. We'll have some kids at the trials. Those cuts are just coming out now. So those are going to be some goal-setting opportunities for us this spring, going into the summer, where kids can start competing and getting those cuts. So, yeah, we'll definitely look to have a presence at Olympic trials, and then you never know on if you're going to sneak in somebody to the Olympics. So
let's talk about the Valley Championship. It was won in Evansville, Indiana, which apparently is the swimming mecca of the world now. I think in Reynolds headed there for the D2 Nationals as well.
Yeah, the GLVC championships were there just before us. Then we went, and then the D2 National meet's going to be there here in a couple weeks. So yeah, a lot of swimming going on in Evansville right now.
What was your expectation going in with your men and your women, and talk about the keys to winning the championship on the men's side?
Well, I must not know our men's squad very well because I picked us third along with everybody else. But I think what that did for us is the expectation was on Miami and Southern Illinois to perform. I thought it could have been either of Miami and Southern going back and forth. And, so when we were halfway through the meet and found ourselves in a position to take the lead, we were pretty thrilled at that point. And I think that was kind of the halfway point of the meet is when we figured we had a chance. The men really outperformed, what I thought we were even capable of, which is always a nice surprise. The ladies had a great meet. This is a year that's kind of I hate the term rebuilding, but it kind of is. And we've just lost a lot to graduation in the last couple of years. So, but our ladies did race really well, competed tough, and finished well.
Dave, in winning the conference championship, does that mean anything for the future as far as the team's concerned, or is it all individual?
It becomes individual at this point, the way our sport works. So we have one of our freshman boys from Bettendorf, Iowa, Kiefer Romer, made the automatic bid for NCAAs. So he will be representing our team there. We had a couple near misses in some other events, but that's just how the sport goes. Specifically, we had a freshman in the mile. It's 66 lengths of the pool. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's about a 15-minute race, and it came down to a touch, and they both went under the automatic qualifying time, but you had to win the event as well. And so our guy Zach was out-touched by 0.4 of a second in a 66 length race. So, but he's a freshman, and it was a good learning experience.
I just can't imagine, and I've been around it for years because I was there with you and Brian at Drury for a while, and just the commitment it takes from these kids to do the same thing every day. And that you've got 2 daughters now that swim, and shout out to Amy for taking the girls to school today, giving you another morning that you didn't have to do it, which those are piling up, Dave. You're getting in trouble with those, I believe. But just talk about, even with your own daughters, the commitment and making sure they stay fresh mentally to really still enjoy the sport by the time they get to an older age.
I do think that's something that coaches have really done a good job of recently, is the grinding of the sport has changed a little bit. And, we mentioned earlier the strength training piece, the variety, just trying – we know as coaches, it's not how many yards you do in a practice anymore. It's quality. It's keeping people engaged, and I think with us on the college side of things, you're right. It's a long season. I mean, we start beginning of September, and we're still going. So, it's a long season, and you have to find ways to keep it fresh, mix things up. We mix up which athletes are with which coaches during the week. We mix up who they're training with. We try to give them as much variety as we can, because it can be very boring and it can be a grind that you can really wear them out.
During the off season, do these kids stay here or are they off elsewhere?
It's a mix. We've got some kids that'll go do internships. Usually they'll go home after their freshman year, and then they'll stay the remaining summers. But we run a full summer training that will start next week. We take about a week off, and then we kind of start working back. So while we're preparing Kiefer for NCAAs, we'll begin getting our kids back in the water and looking towards those summer meets. And it's a 12-month sport. You really got to keep going the whole year.
Of course, most people don't know that Dave turned down a potential lucrative basketball career in his days at Drury. If he could just beat his wife one-on-one, the former Amy Ballou at Drury. But by the way, do those ever happen anymore, the one-on-one matchups? Or
no, now it's 2-on-2 in my backyard, and I think our youngest, Addie, is probably the better basketball player at the moment. No, my basketball career I was really good at putting together the best intramural team Drury's ever had. So, we had athletes. It was all the GAs for all the different athletic teams. So we had Matt Stell, we had Frank Bennett, we had Tyler Rogers. We had all kinds of guys that could play all the different sports. So it was fun.
Dave, I had a chance to see Stell perform on national television. I think it was the Liberty Bowl, if I remember correctly. But he's doing pretty well for himself now.
He is, and every time he comes through town, we usually play some golf and get to hang out. He had a concert here in Rogersville a couple months ago that was a blast. So, yeah, he's doing great. And he usually does want to sniff out a golf game when he's in town. So, that's usually when he calls how to get on a course.
Is he any good at golf?
Yeah, he's not bad. He likes to bet, though. I mean, you better bring your pocketbook if you're going to play with Matt, because he likes to gamble.
Dave, a lot of changes in NCAA sports here with, as you mentioned, the transfer portal and things like that. You've been doing this at Missouri State now for, 13, 14 years, I believe, as the head coach?
Close to 20. I think this is maybe year 19, I think.
As the head coach?
Well, head coach – I was under Coach Steck for about 4 years. So,
what do you see for this sport in the future? What are some of the challenges that you face on your own campus and out there in the NCAA? And do you have roster caps, or are those things a thing of the past now too?
No, roster caps are a real thing for us, and obviously, without getting too into the weeds on Title IX and just making sure that you have equal opportunities for women athletes on the campus. And I think one of our big challenges at Missouri State, and really this is a national challenge, is there's just less men going to college. So that it skews those numbers when Title IX has to stay even with the enrollment on your campus, but we have less men going to college. That number, even though we've added some female sports on campus, we're still not really caught up with the enrollment on our campus. So it's a challenge, but we're so supported. And a quick shout out to Patrick Ransdale, our AD. I mean, he called me on Thursday during the meet just to check in how we were doing. He said, "Hey, give me an update on Friday." And he said, "If you guys are in it, I'm driving up." And so I talked to him Friday night. He drove up. He got up at 4 a.m, drove to Evansville. He was on the pool deck cheering us on. And it was awesome to have him there. He's high-fiving the kids. In all my years at Missouri State, I've never had an athletic director on the pool deck when we won. So that was pretty cool. I think it was neat. He was taking pictures. It was neat to have him there.
Dave, how big an influence was Steck on you and your coaching?
Well, a lot. I mean, he gave me my first opportunity. And, I think where I was very fortunate was he knew he was close to retirement. So he didn't want to go to budget meetings. He didn't want to recruit. He didn't want to do a lot of the day-to-day stuff. He just wanted to coach some kids in the afternoon. So, he gave me a lot of freedom to make decisions, make roster moves, offer scholarships, budget, things like that, meet schedule. So that was huge for me. Yeah, I mean, great influence. He was a heck of a motivator. He was a character, too. He always kept you on your toes.
That he was, believe me.
Well, Dave, we appreciate your time. Congratulations on the another Valley Conference tournament title. I just got to ask, when you guys play 2-on-2 and the girls get to pick their teammate, does mom get drafted number one or are you number one?
You know the answer to that, Scott. You're just trying to rub it in. Yes, my wife, I am the worst basketball player in my family, but that's okay. I'm more of a facilitator. I like to pass the ball.
But if you get in the pool, it's a different story, right?
Well, they're I don't know. I think my daughters are better than I am too now. So,
well, Dave, then just go back to bed then, okay? And
my swimming is to and from the dock, from the boat to maybe fetch a cold beverage at the lake. That's the extent of my swimming.
Hey, that's exercise. You got to look at it that way. Yeah, Dave, thanks
that's
again,
right.
and good luck, and we'll stay in touch. Okay.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
You betcha.
Dave Collins visiting with us from Missouri State. Quick timeout on the starting lineup, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to The Starting Lineup with Scott Puryear, Ned Reynolds, and Art Haynes on 102.1 The One.